Hey guys, welcome to the People First podcast. And today we have A L Rojo with us, a fantastic author. Am I allowed to use that? Is that correct terminology?
If you like to.
Perfect. I'm not great with terminology and hopefully I get all this right today. I have been following you, just keeping my eye on what's been happening, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get to know you, understand where all this come from, what you're about, what you love, and to expand, I think, on all areas through the book and through your own life.
Sounds really good.
So welcome to the People First podcast. Now, if I was to get you to introduce yourself, how would you do it, and how would you let the people know who you are and what you're about?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm A L Rojo, and I have just released my debut novel, The Heart of Farrowline, which is the first book in my fantasy romance series, The Pack of Farrowline.
Fantasy romance.
Fantasy romance, that's right.
Oh, now tell me. Now, I'm always curious about how people have gotten to the place that they're at in their lives. I think personally, we are a reflection of the opportunities, the questions, and the standards that we've lived our whole life by. How do you get to a point where you write, not just one, you're going to be writing more, right? You're going to write a pack of books.
Yeah.
So how do you get to the point right now in your life? Where did you start? Run me through your upbringing. Just take us way back, and let's start as far back as you want to go.
Okay. Well, I think I had a typical upbringing, but I don't think a lot of people realised that I struggled to understand the world. And I found it really hard to understand social situations and why people acted the way that they did. And I ended up being silent for a lot of my childhood, I think. Just observing people and people's behaviour, mostly because I didn't understand how to contribute in the world very well. And from my earliest memory, I know that to be my truth. And it was the moment I picked up a novel, it was this moment where I was like enthralled in something when I never really was able to get enthralled in anything. And it took me on a wild adventure. And that was it. I was hooked.
How old were you when you said that was the earliest you could? How old do you think you were when you first picked up like a novel or something? Or
it would probably be, I think my mother always read us stories. And I always have a lot of memories of her reading stories, and she always read. So she was always on the lounge reading in her, pleasure time and doing all those sorts of things. So books were always a part of the family, part of the household. My earliest memory would be early high school.
Yep.
But it was a closet thing. Like I would never have told my friends that I was reading.
You weren't getting your book out at lunchtime and sitting down by a tree and...
No, not at all.
No,
not at all. I think I wouldn't even think that people knew about that part of my life. And it wasn't because I didn't want to tell people. It was just something that I did in my time.
Yeah.
And it really did it. It opened up the world for me when I didn't understand it on my own.
Yeah. What do you remember reading back then? What was something that you sort of picked up early on and decided to... Because for me, I'll let you know, I totally relate to what you're saying. It's funny because we've never spoke about this, but you talking, I'm like, I lived in a household where my escapism was either television or reading. And so I didn't want to be in the world I was in, so I decided to get lost in either television or in books. And Goosebumps was a book that I was obsessed with. Like I read every single one. Like then we went into high school, did like your traditional King Lear, Raw. We did Matilda, all that sort of stuff. Those just general things that they're teaching through school. But when I was a kid learning, my escapism was Goosebumps, and I would lose my mind there. What was that for you?
I think it was a lot of different things. I don't particularly have a series in mind. I know that I did the whole Harry Potter thing when it came out, but it was actually higher fantasy fiction that really got me. I think I was about 13 or 14 when I read The Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
I didn't understand half the words that were in it, let's be honest. It's high fantasy. But I remember reading that and just my mind was blown and I was so into it. Would never have told anyone that, but I was very into it. So it was a lot of things. It wasn't just fantasy. It was, like teen novels, and it was my mum's novels. It was never censored in our house. We could read what we wanted. It didn't have to be, age appropriate. Not that we were reading, I was reading anything, too explicit.
Yeah.
That was not my mum's style anyway. But we were never censored on what I could read. And I just picked up everything, and I read everything.
When you were reading, would it take you? So, how do you read? So, I asked this that obviously you read with your eyes and words, but do you get completely lost and have this visualization, this colorful visualization? Do you have scenarios, places? How are you interpreting the words that you're reading and digesting? What is the go-to for you for that? Because I find that really important, because a lot of people say, well, when I read, I just don't see anything. When I read, I see an entire world, a character. I give them, even though they're explained in a book, I will still create my own.
Yep.
Even though we're like, oh, they had brown hair. I'm like, no, they don't. They had blonde hair and they had freckles.
Yes.
What is it for you for that?
It's exactly that.
Yep.
It is an entire world in my head with more information even than what I'm given, and it becomes real for me. And to have it black and white on a piece of paper about how people's in a monologue and how they think and why they do things, and it honestly painted a picture for me to understand when I didn't understand in the real world.
Yeah.
So it was my escape, but it taught me also about emotions and things that I never picked up naturally on my own. And not that anyone would have understood that I struggled like that. So then I ended up, a quiet teenager. I did end up in a lot of, situations that were a little bit naughty, but it was just because I didn't really understand, so I just went with the flow sometimes. But I also became people's sounding board, which had an impact later in life.
Yep.
So I was never allowed to I'll say that again. I was never able to express myself because I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
But people would to me. Yeah. So I would take a lot on underneath, and people never really understood the true self.
And whereabouts did you grow up?
In Western Sydney.
Western Sydney, yeah. And do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yep. I'm one of 4.
Wow, one of 4.
Yeah.
Big family.
We are a big family, yes.
And how are they are they similar to you in that? Something that they love and share your passion, or is it just me out of the family that just sort of reads and writes?
I think I'm the reader. Everyone has their readers. My sister and my mother. My mum reads. My auntie, my grandma. So it was a lot of us. But I think in our little household, I think I took over mum and I was just like books, and they became my little treasures, and no one was allowed to touch them. And
Do you have anyone that you look up to in that world, or is there like some writers that you look up to for yourself? Now we'll go through that in bigger detail, but I want to bring it up early on as well. Is there something or is there a person that sort of is more of an influence for you?
Not necessarily. I think it was more just stories that, characters and stories, and authors like Sarah Douglas was one of my first kind of memories of reading kind of fiction, fantasy fiction, and a bit of romance and intrigue and things like that. But there's probably so many that I couldn't really name one in particular, because they would just end up being these stories and worlds in my head.
Now, what's the process for someone, say they're listening and they're like, you know what, I absolutely am resonating, I get it, I'm in the world that she's in, I'm sitting there and I'm saying this is me to a T, and I think I have the ability to convey meaning and create stories. What was the process for you? What did the journey look like from being young, feeling that was what helped you understand the world and create your awareness and understanding for things that you couldn't necessarily pick up in the moment? Where does that take you from? Take me from there to where you have gone to, or what you've gone through.
Yeah. It was a long journey. So I've only been writing for about 3 years.
How old are you now?
I am 34.
34? Well, you're young.
Yeah.
Youngster.
Thank you.
Young little baby. No. I'm 36 this year, so you're killing it. Killing it.
So it was, I live these stories in my head, and it sounds really weird when I explain it to people. And I don't think it's been until the last 6 months where I will try to explain it to people, because it makes me sound a little bit odd, where I have these kind of daydreams that I live and I think about, and they're not characters from any other novel. It's my head and my daydreams, and then going through some pretty tough times, as everyone does at adulthood, trying to understand the world, especially as it changes when you go through different stages, and being a mum, and then going through your careers and things. So I would kind of escape into my little daydream sometimes, or I'd have my dreams, and it took me going through some really hard times to realize that all I had to do was just pick up a laptop, and that the daydream could be more than just mine. And I just started typing as a way of expressing myself and helping me cope with my own emotions.
Like not journaling, but maybe similar to that, where you're like journaling your thoughts or your inner thoughts and inner understanding of what's happening, trying to help you relate to it, because that, as you said, was the way that you picked up the world and understood it more clearly, because it was through words and through your own imagery, and then having that, putting it back on the paper, then rereading was maybe able to help you do that.
Yeah, it would be quite similar to that, except I'm not doing my own kind of my inner thoughts. It was the stories that I had in my head that were living out, in my little worlds.
Yeah, wow.
And it was just giving life to these characters in a really wonderful way that I never thought possible. Yeah.
Now, you've talked briefly and we've touched on some challenges. And I think anyone who's good at anything, and I've said this before in a few podcasts, I think anyone that's good at anything has gone through stuff. They've gone through stuff that's really enabled them to open up certain parts of their mind for themselves, or their way that they share with the world. Is there anything there that you feel has helped shape where you are today? Now, you've mentioned anything that you want to share in regards to, like, there's been this one or two challenges, and without those challenges, I wouldn't have been given the gift that I have today. And I bring this up a lot for myself because community is created through my lack of community and affection as a child. I create that now as an adult. I create that now with our facility. Our CrossFit facility is a reflection of what I missed, what I wanted. And I'm using fitness and health as a way of expressing it, but that was created through my trauma. Through a lot of trauma that I lived through. And without that, I wouldn't have the facility that everyone knows as being an accepting, place that everyone can come and feel themselves. Where for you do you reckon your power comes from, your gift? What gifts were given to you, although maybe in the moment weren't gifts, that you've gone, wow, like, I see where that gift, although in the moment didn't feel like a gift, has now created my magic and my power?
Yep. There's probably a few.
Yeah.
The big one, I think, that makes me who I am is when I was 15, I got sick. I was pretty sick, and they could never work out what was wrong with me. And so from about 15 and 18, and painting a picture here, you have someone who, finds life and people's reactions difficult in the first place. So from about 15 to 18, before I was diagnosed with my condition, I was sick, and I would get really sick, and I found it hard to get out of bed some days, and all these things would happen to me. And every time I would go to the doctor, I was pretty much dismissed or told that, you must be depressed. A very typical, as I'm learning now as an adult woman, a very typical response given to women and women's health is, it must be in your head, or you're okay, you just need more sleep, get out of the house, go out in the sun. But I would physically be unable to get out of bed some days. And I felt myself a burden to my family, some of those situations. So I would kind of internalize it. Until I was about 18, I remember being at university, and I was trying to walk up a hill, and I couldn't actually get up the hill. I think I got halfway up, and I couldn't move anymore. And I'm like, I'm 18. This shouldn't be like this. And after being through, I've been on ultrasounds, I've been through scans, I've been through blood tests and all the works, and thinking, maybe it is in my head. So I'm starting to believe the narrative that's been given to me by all these doctors, and I'm thinking, maybe it is in my head, and what's wrong with me? And I'm already a confused individual as it is. So, my mental health kind of struggled a little bit then, and it was just a random occurrence that the doctor tested for something in particular when I went to him, and I'm like, I'm cold all the time, like I'm freezing, like my hands are freezing, and he felt my hands, and it was I could see his reaction was like, oh, again, she's here. And he's like, well, we've already got the blood test. We took another round of blood tests. I'll just add on one more to it. And I remember the same day I couldn't walk up the hill, I got a phone call from the doctor's surgery saying you need to come in straight away. And on that day, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. And it made sense. And it was just a relief, which sounds so silly to be diagnosed with something shouldn't make you feel relieved. But it did, because there was an answer, and finally there was an answer after struggling and struggling. And it didn't stop there. The journey wasn't smooth. There was still a lot of dismissal, still a lot of lack of information given to me. It was, this is what it is, these are the medicines we'll have to take, these are the specialists you need to go to. And I've been dealing with that for my entire life, basically.
Yeah, and that clarity, which is what you speak of, was why you were so relieved, rather than it thinking, well, maybe I'm just making all of this up. Maybe these people are right and I'm wrong, and you start to doubt your own person. And that becomes quite dangerous, and I think that becomes something that then we lose our direction, then we lose our faith in ourselves to pick the right road. And being diagnosed gives you a gift back in the respect that now you have more power.
Yep.
You get your power back. Rather than being powerless, you now have some sort of power to grab onto again and move forward.
Yeah.
Where did that take you from that moment? Did that take you on a journey again to develop from there?
Yeah, so it didn't stop. It was like, this is my diagnosis, but then it was so much more than dismissals and stuff like that. It never ended. It never ended, and I never felt like I could claim the disease and work it out for myself. I think it stems back from me not understanding how to interact with people in a certain way. So it wasn't until quite recently in my life that I was able to go, oh, I can do this, or, oh, getting rid of this in my diet would actually help me. And like, I had to find the answers for myself when I was looking for older people and adults and specialists to do it for me. And as I became an adult, I realized that, no, I have to actually take this control myself. You know, in Hashimoto's, it messes with your head. It's a silent, she's not nice. She's not nice at all. And, you know, there was a lot of ups and there was a lot of downs. But you still weren't, I felt like I was never able to say, no, I'm actually not feeling well today. I'm just going to stay in bed. I was never allowed to do that. It was always, it's good, come on, you just push through it.
Yeah.
And I know it came from a nice place with the people in my life, but it also never allowed me to claim my illness in a way that I needed to claim it.
And the perception is that you're just being lazy and not fighting for it. It's like, well, no, this is part of the journey, part of the recovery, and part of the process. And if people aren't that accepting of it, then that means they probably have no exposure to it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the ones that can push ourselves or try and push us most is some people who have no understanding of what it's like to live or be in the shoes of someone who might be suffering at the time. And although good-willed and good-intentioned, can lead to a longer road or a longer recovery journey for you.
Yep, that's right.
Who did you turn to as a young adult? Now, I've got some friends and stuff who are quite young, who have similar diagnoses, almost the exact same. But who did you turn to when you didn't know, like when you were blindsided, so to speak, by I've got my confirmation. Now, who do you turn to for that? Like,
It was my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my mum.
Anybody in the family gone through anything similar?
No.
Yep.
So it was really random that, this hereditary disease, but we don't have any knowledge of it, in the line, in the tree. So it was always good intended. It was, it was supportive, but you always still felt a little bit alone because no one really understood it.
Yep.
So everyone was always being, really nice to me. My parents were really great about it. But no one knows.
Yeah.
No one knows until you go through it. And I think it was more me personally. I was the problem because I never looked into it enough for myself.
Yep.
I just accepted the information and never took control. And it wasn't until I was quite older adult to do that.
And so this has given you the power to unlock and tap into writing, right? So during this period, were you writing a lot about these experiences at all, or had you not started doing that?
No, I hadn't started doing that.
And when you started writing, which was about 3 years ago.
It was about 3 years, yeah.
Was there something that led you to just start? What was it that led you? So this question's important for me to know because is there a moment where you went, I need to get this out of my brain and into some paper or whatever? Was there something that happened like that?
It was probably my mental health.
Yep.
So my mental health was a bit, it always has been.
Yep.
I think the disease loves to do that as well, with all hormone imbalances and things. So I was I got to this point in life where I was, I'm a mother. Do I go back to who am I now? That's what the point was. Who am I now? The kids are growing up. Who am I? And that really messed with my head a little bit because I was like, who am I? Who do I want to be? So writing actually became a bit of a therapy for me when it was just some personal time for me to do something and opening the laptop. And I think it even tried to start as just a journal of my thoughts rather, like what am I thinking, how am I feeling? But then it turned into me writing these characters in this story that I've been living with for years and years before it. So yeah, it was really just a way of me to try and put down some ideas, but it wasn't ideas, it was actually a story.
Yeah. Now run me through your actual published right now. It's out. We could buy it.
Yes, you can.
Anywhere. I can go to any bookstore.
And you can, yes.
That's awesome.
It is.
So actually, before we even get to there and talking more about the book specifically, because what's it like writing something and then giving it to people to judge?
Oh, it's the worst.
Because I write a lot, right?
Yeah.
And like I told you, I don't write well. Like I write with meaning and emotion, but it's not grammatically correct.
That's all it is, but it's all meaning emotion. That's all it is.
When did you realize you had something? And then how did it even eventuate? Was there someone in your life that went, this is really good, you need to get this? Like how did it get from your laptop for your eyes to the world to see?
Else. Well, this isn't the first story that I wrote. I've actually written a whole other novel that will probably never see the light of day. And I wrote it as part of this.
Might be worth something in the future, that one. Hey.
And no one will probably ever see it. And I wrote it and I actually gave it to my mum. My mum was the first one to read it. And I'm like, Mum, be brutal. I'm like, be honest, Mum. Like, tell me, because I think this is what I want to do with myself. Like, this is it. I think this is who I am. I think, can I be? Do I give permission to myself to be a writer? Am I creative? I never thought I was creative. I never identified as that. So I gave it to Mum, and I'm like, please. And I think I harassed her for weeks. Honestly, I think I was like messaging, have you read it? What do you think? Okay, don't tell me. I'm not trying to harass you, but have you read it? I was just so, obsessed with it. And then when she's like, I like it. I really like it.
Like, yeah, but my mum, I was like,
then
you don't believe what she says.
Oh no, we're pretty honest in my family. We say it how it is. Like, we're not going to, put anyone out there in the world if it's a serious thing. And I'm like, okay. So, and I think I gave it to a few more people. And I'm like, okay. But I knew that wasn't the story. That was my story.
Yeah.
That was a story. It had nothing to do with me. I wasn't in the story. But that was my emotions at that time. Mm. And the character and everything, it portrayed my low point. But that wasn't the story. That was actually going on. This, The Heart of Farrowline, is the story that I knew was to be shared.
So your mum's likes it. You've given it to several people. They are happy with it and they're like, you know what? I like this. Where do you take it now? What do you do with it? You leave that one there and you just start writing another
that's what
version.
Happened. That's pretty much what happened.
Not version, but another story.
It was exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It was, I think I did hand it to I handed it to a publisher from a publishing house. Just the first chapter as part of the Writers Association. And he spoke to me on the phone and he's like, I actually really like this. Like, I like it. I'd love for you to send me the rest of the script. And I didn't. The rest of the novel. And I didn't send it to him. He's like, fix up this. And he gave me some really great critique. And I was like, wow, this is like a person in the industry. Yeah. I'm like, what am I doing?
You're like, this is the best coaching session ever.
It was great. It was really, really good. And I'm like, but I don't think this is it. I didn't know if that was it. So I don't think I gave myself permission to write a story like The Heart of Farrowline at that point where I was at. I needed to learn some things. I needed to get a bit more confident before I shared this story.
And how long did it take you to write the novel?
It took me about 9 months to write it.
Oh, wow.
But I have been it's been about a 3-year journey. About a 3-year journey. So it didn't take me very long to write it. Once I gave myself permission to write Ridley's story, it came out, and I knew exactly what was happening. But then obviously the process of finding publishers and editing and working out where I wanted to go with it.
And so I think I've spoken to another friend of mine who said that there's 2 ways of getting your book out there. You can self-publish, and then you can go through a publisher. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
And why did you choose the publisher route versus maybe doing it yourself?
Well, I'm a self-publisher.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a self-publisher under a publisher.
Okay.
So, yeah. We have a publishing house that helped, but I'm a self-publisher.
Okay.
So I own all the rights to my book.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
I still own it.
And so what's the process for you? So you meet with, you go through as a self-publisher. So I'm getting this right. So I've got the timeline of events down. You write the second. So you write your first one. You get great feedback. You then go, it's not the story. I want to create this, the Heart of Farrowline, right? Create that. 9 months goes by. It's done. You write the last word on the keyboard. You press save.
Yep.
How does it feel?
It was
terrifying, Shane. I don't even.
Yeah. Everything was a myriad of emotions. It was like, a bit of relief. Like, like I got it all out before I forgot it. It was sometimes I get like that where I'm like, just write quick, because I don't. So it was a bit like relief, and it was a bit like, that's it. Like it was like I completed something, like an accomplishment. Like I completed something.
But is it like, I feel like it would be like another child, right? You're done with it sort of thing. Like they've moved out. You've got nothing left to give to it. Like you've given all the information, the lessons, and you've got it on a paper or, onto a computer. And so how do you feel when that's done? Like obviously a sense of achievement, but is there a hole in there where, I've got to start tomorrow and pick up the keyboard again?
I actually sat on it for a while. That's probably why it's taken me 3 years. I've sat on it for a while just to work out what I wanted to do with it and find the courage to actually approach anyone to help me publish it.
Yep.
So it was me. I think I delayed all of that just for my own kind of confidence. Is it good? Is it not good? I sent it out, to the people who read it, my mum, my sister, and all those. Their feedback was amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And it was so uplifting, but it was me. I had to wait for my confidence in myself to go, okay, let's just talk to someone. And I would kind of talk to them, and then I'd wait a few months, and then I'd talk to them again. So it was really just a process of me being confident.
How did you find someone to talk to before you went? So I'm just going to press record on this camera again. As a budget setup, I don't have one that records for more than 30 minutes. So how did you find somebody that, did you just Google?
It was a recommendation.
Okay.
So it was recommended to my husband. He kind of heard about them, and that's where it came from.
Okay.
So then I contacted them.
And then so in my world, I've watched movies. Okay, so that's my level of understanding of the situation. Do you go backwards and forwards with deals and contracts and if I sell X amount of books or how does that stuff go for someone like yourself? If it's the first time you're doing it, you're in a new space, a new world of I don't know the rights and the wrongs. If there's someone out there that has something like you've got or they want to do exactly what you're doing, what's some information you could give them to help them understand that next process?
Well, if you find a company like I did that that are self-publishing kind of, publishers who help along the way, they really do mediate everything. So when it came time to finding an editor, I don't know where to find an editor. That's not my field. So they were able to, connect me to an editor who went through that process with that person. So they were really the middle company man to just help me out and help me along the way. So they helped me with a cover image. They got me with a graphic designer. So it was really helpful to have them to take me along the journey.
To support you the whole way.
Yep.
Now, do you fund this outright for yourself? You go, okay, I'm going to go buy. How many copies do you buy? Do you buy them? Do you print them as they needed? Because this stuff interests me.
So it's all financially. I financially back myself in this project.
Yep.
So it all goes to, you know, the big distributor. So with this publisher, they send it out into the, you know, big wide world of, you know, the fancy distributors out there.
Yeah.
And so I don't, it's all print on demand.
Okay,
So
yeah.
people will
Order.
Booktopia will have it, Amazon has it. It's all just out there in the world. It's a very complicated, but I'm sure it's an easy
Yep.
system to understand if you've been in it for a long time, which I haven't been. So I do get copies, but not necessarily anything like that.
Yep. Oh, sorry, my phone just started ringing. And are you going to do I listen to audiobooks a lot. Do you do would you do an audiobook variation of it all?
I'm not sure.
You're not
I
sure?
feel like that's really fancy and has to be potentially down the track. Maybe a dream of mine. That would maybe be another step in the process,
We've
but
got
who knows?
I mean, if you've got the book with you, we've got the mics ready to go. So we might just get a
to find
start on
some
it.
voice.
I can be a character, I'm sure.
Done.
No, I mean, I don't think it's a very appealing voice, but it's there if you need it. You let me know.
Done. Oh, I know.
Now, I want to go through some stuff with you as well in regards to your own routine, because for me, if anyone listening is like me, to write something more than a few pages takes an absolute immense amount of clarity and focus in my day. Mm-hmm. Did you have a routine writing this book? And if you did, what was it? Because I've spoken to people before about this, and I've listened to a few podcasts with other authors, and they would lock themselves in a room and write for 8 hours and then take a break and then do that again, or they would find a little chateau and just put themselves away with a nice bottle of wine and a bubble bath and start typing.
Beautiful.
You know, again, a lot of my context is from movies, but was there something that you did that made this routine easy? What would you say to someone that wanted to write but can't find the routine to do it? And did you have one? And if you didn't, if you could implement one, what would it be?
Well, no, I'm not that fancy, and my life is quite hectic.
No bubble baths and wine with a laptop.
Ah, man. There is not enough time in the day for that, or peace and quiet for that matter. No, I'm quite, you know, I write when the kids are in bed.
Yeah.
Or if I have something I have to quickly write, I'll actually write it down. So there's a lot of the story is actually handwritten.
Oh, wow.
On a piece of paper and a pen, especially when it's come to me quite quickly, or I'm, you know, daydreaming like, oh yeah, like.
I didn't know people still wrote on pens and paper except me, because I've got notes here. Like, people would use a laptop for this, Shane. No, I'm a pen and paper person.
Yeah, no, I find my brain connects better with my hand.
Yeah.
So I'm able to write quicker, and I'm a bit more creative. I feel I'm able to be creative and be lost in my daydream.
Yeah.
When I'm writing with my hand, it might be illegible to anyone who reads it, but it's a way of me connecting it's like a physical kind of process when it comes to writing.
The flow.
Yes, that's right.
Flows through the brain, down the arm, out the pen,
that's
rather
right.
than fingertips. Yeah,
Yes.
I totally get that.
Yeah. So no, my routine's not. It sounds amazing. That would be fantastic. But I like noise. I actually find it really hard to not write when, you know, the family's crazy around me and playing games and having fun and laughing. I feel that I write based on emotions and experiences, like real world experiences. That's my passion. My passion is to emphasize like the human experience, real world stuff. And in order for me to do that and be natural and true, I'm in my world. And my world, it's never portrayed in any of my books, but they give me my energy, if that makes sense. They 100%. Are my energy. Yes, so no quiet bubble baths for me at all.
I was trying to write something this morning, and not anything in particular, just like a letter or something. I was just trying to write actually a status for our PT group, and there was just too much noise in the cafe, and I had to mute all of the stuff around me and put headphones in because I can't focus on my thoughts. I'm the complete opposite to that. I need silence.
No, I if I don't have anyone at home or if it's late at night, I actually have my headphones on, blaring music.
Yeah, wow.
Like blaring music. So it just kind of it seems to separate my brain, or allow my brain to turn off the logical side, the side that's like, I have to do lunches and I have to do this and I have to vacuum and you know, all those sorts of things, or I've got to do this at work. And
what's the go-to genre of music?
Everything.
Just like
everything.
Top 40?
Yep, I just blare it. And I'll have particular
Not
ones.
Mozart or
No, nothing like that. It'll be, and it's funny, so some scenes I actually wrote with the same song on repeat. So it like gave me, you know, the energy or the drive, or it, you know, triggered something in my head. Yep. So music was a really big part of my writing journey, and it still is. Yes,
Yeah.
because I need the noise because it drowns out the other stuff.
So I actually thought of something when you were talking then about inspiration. Where do you drum up most of your inspiration? You said real life experiences. Does that mean you put yourself in positions to challenge yourself and give you more exposure to the world and feedback to have more internal experience and then be able to convey that in a book or a piece of writing?
You know, I think sometimes the world is a challenge for me no matter what. So a lot of situations are always challenging, especially when it comes to social. And I'm getting better. It's a journey,
Great
but
here.
I'm getting better.
I never noticed it. I never noticed that you don't. Yeah, and I've trained you a few times, and
Yes.
I put you in very awkward situations with other people in a room, and I'm like,
No. See, I need to be challenged, and I do try to challenge myself.
Yeah.
It's not who I actually am, and I know that those feelings and emotions and those issues, they try to stop. I'm sure someone might listen understand this. But it does try to stop you from putting yourself out there. And I've had to train myself to push past those negative
Roadblocks.
Emotions and all those kind of doubts in your head and all that sort of stuff so that I can experience the world because I like my friends and I like being social. I love going out. And so I don't allow it to – I used to, but I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. So that's why people don't nearly see that. But I find that a lot of people – they might not know what's going on internally. So I don't think people truly understand because it's not how you don't see what's going on the inside.
No way. And there's everyone's, battling things internally that we know nothing about and whether it be good, bad or neutral.
Yep.
There's so much happening. And even for myself, I put myself out into the public eye a lot. Like, our social media content, my own content, personal content. And to have everyone fully understand where I'm at. And that's kind of why I created this podcast, is to be able to have the conversations with people that I would want to hear and also opens me up, challenges me, pushes me in a position to understand myself more and get to know, okay, we're all connected. Like, from a mental, physical, emotional sort of, we're somehow connected to so many people in our lives, and to think that we aren't is crazy talk. So how do we get that barrier out of the way and hear from others and hear what's going on inside? How do we get to where you are? How do I get to where I got to? And so it's a really, really cool journey and a really cool way of going, let's get it out there, put it out into the world and see what comes back from that, which can always be mixed emotions because you're dealing with a whole bunch, 7 billion people on the planet who are going to interpret what you say with their exposures and their beliefs and their stories and their experiences. And that will happen with the book you write. It will happen with what we say today. It happens with everything.
Yes, of course.
And so I think being able to be open, honest, vulnerable and clear like you are, you're helping those around you and you're helping yourself. And I think that's the most important part. Hopefully. Hopefully is the most important part. Now, I always want to finish like some of this stuff up. Not finished, but definitely got some stuff I want to talk about. But moving through, during all of the work in 9 months, right, you put time and effort in. What did you do that got you away, that enabled you to have some fun and relax and enjoy yourself as well? Because it can't all be work and it can't all be family. What did you do that gave you some fun and some relaxation time to help clear your brain and clear the slate so that you could layer on more work?
It's going to sound a little bit cliche, but it's reading. It's reading and being active and physical, like going to the gym and things like that was something I kind of was always on and off with. But I need to be active. My mental health relies on me being active, whether it's a walk or now I'm at the gym.
That's why I opened a facility for 12 years, is for my own mental health. Trust me, I get that.
But reading and to be honest, writing is a massive, and it sounds very boring, but that's what it is. It's that. Outside my family, it's that.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, if it's not for the gym, I can't think of it better. You'll ask my wife this, and what does Shane want to do for fun? Find a breeze that comes through a window or a balcony on a chair with a book and a coffee. Like, that is my ultimate,
100%.
like, I am charged from that. Like, not being out in the environment amongst thousands of people, not even talking to people. I don't even want to say words sometimes. I want to read words only, and it relaxes me. It makes me have fun. I actually really thoroughly enjoy being on my own. Although most of what I do is extroverted because of my presence in the facility. But my recharge time, like yours, to relax and have fun is reading. having fun. I love reading about people's lives. I just love biographies and stuff like that where we're just talking about their journey, hence the podcast probably. But but so for me, I totally relate to that. And I get exactly what you're saying, to have fun. Do you have any, what do you read though? Do you just read, fiction, non-fiction? Do you read, like when you're looking to relax though? Because mine's different. When I'm trying to learn, it's very, very about my craft. And then when I'm trying to relax, it's about people. And I've only ever had a few books take me to other places when I was younger, and I haven't really picked that sort of side of reading up again. What about for yourself?
Honestly, it varies.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm really into paranormal romance.
Ooh,
and it just stays. It kind of goes in these little stages of it, and I'm really into that at the moment. It's just fun. It's just a bit of romance, a little bit of fantasy for a bit of fun. Yep. Very similar to what I write. It's escapism, but it's also truths and emotions. That's what I'm really into at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. And I always found that I'm trying to push myself outside my bubble. I just have a very, if it doesn't hook me in the first chapter, I'm really off sometimes with it.
No, fair. Yep. I'm
like, and they always say, don't judge a book by its cover. I'm like, I try not to, and then I judge it by its first chapter though. And so by that time, I'm like, I've got to be hooked. Run us through. People listening by now are probably very curious, 40 minutes, and they want to know, run me through the work. What is this book about? Tell me. Let's get the people listening.
Okay.
Let's get them hooked. Go for it.
All right. So this book is about a single mum, and she's young, and she has a bit of a past that seems to always try to haunt her, and she's trying to run from it basically in her little way. But she's just trying to survive. She's a little kid. She's a baby. She's just trying to survive. And she gets a job working at a company called Farrow Group, which is run by the Wolfpack of Farrowline. And the alpha, Tobias Farrow, is the big boss. And it's just her.
Tobias, that's a powerful name.
Yes.
I like it.
And it's just a story of her trying to live and work out this world, and she's swept up in it, and it's just about love and challenges and trying to live life when sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's really hard.
I think a little bit of us all has experienced that in our day-to-day life, and our, because life throws so much at you, but it's being we've just had she's 6, our little girl, Quinn. And, that in itself, just trying to find our new meaning. Who are we? Because before Quinn, we weren't the parents. Now we're the parents with a business. Before we were just owning a business. Before that, we were just the trainer guys. Before that, we were just the guys that liked health. And this evolution of self into the challenges of life, and then, birth, sickness, death, all that stuff surrounds us. Unfortunately, that's the story of life. And then how do we navigate that? But then she's got things in the past that are haunting her, you said.
Yes.
What are they?
I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, don't ruin it for me.
Don't give too much away. But, she's very isolated. She's very alone. And she's just trying to protect herself and her child. But unfortunately, sometimes, your past
catches up
with you.
Oh, I like it. The suspense. I love that.
I will leave it there. I think.
Yeah. And so we obviously, I'm picking up a copy. Definitely. I need to read it. But I always, and that's why I want you to do an audio book, because I like to do both. So you're going to have to do that for me when I'm finished.
I'll get onto that.
So once I'm done, you can borrow my studio to do your audio book.
Done.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about as well is now, this is something I just ask my clients, because I'm really intrigued by gadgets that people use. What do you use? Is there anything around that you use? Is there Kindles or stuff that you use, sort of gadgets that help you connect, that help you with, that you really enjoy using? Is there anything out there that you really think, someone should know about that?
My Google Home Hub.
Yes.
It's honestly my life. I'll just be like, I forget a word, or I'm like, what is the meaning of this word? And I'll just be like, hey, Google.
Yep.
And she just, honestly, she's like this little voice in my
crazy.
head that helps me.
Someone on TV does say, hey, Google in my house, and then she turns on. I'm like, no one is. That's the television talking. You stop talking to me.
Sometimes she'll talk to me and I haven't said, hey, Google. And I'm like, what are you
She can now read your thoughts, don't you? Right?
She's telling me stuff. I'm like, did I ask that? Or
now, the other thing I want to go through is your message to the world. Now, if you were able to push a button right now in front of you and tap into the brains of every human being on the planet, young, old, or ranges of individuals, what would be your message to those people if you had one?
Just go for it. The daydreams, your dreams, anything, it's not out of reach. And it's never too late to do what you want to do. And you speak your truth. And who knows what's going to come about.
I think that's a powerful message, because if you hadn't gone for what you'd gone for, you wouldn't be where you are.
That's right.
If I hadn't decided to open up a gym 12, 13 years ago, I wouldn't have what I have now.
That's right.
I think if we can all ask good quality questions of our days, what we want, and where we truly want to be, we can lead to a very powerful place.
And it's scary. It's really scary. And then we end up being our own worst nightmares, I think, sometimes. So sometimes you just have to, get rid of the negative emotions and push through it and know that, any kind of anxiety or stress, they're always going to force you to not give it a go and not try. And sometimes you just have to just ignore it.
Where to from here for you? Where does tomorrow lead? Where does next month? Where does next year lead? Where are we going?
Just more writing, more my ultimate goal. And when, I've had a few amazing readers send me feedback, which has just, blown my mind with gratitude. When they tell me that I was able to let them escape from whatever they were dealing with, that to me is an ultimate compliment for me. So I just want to keep producing this art and this creation and hope that it provides to people that sense of escape and entertainment and a bit of fun just for their lives.
I think all of us had that book where we're just like, you just cannot put it down. There's something there. And I think many, many people will be awaiting your next one.
Thank you.
Have you started writing the next?
Yes, I have. Yes. Yep. So it's actually in the in the works.
In the works.
In the works. It should be out by the end of this year.
Oh wow! So
yes,
pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
So when I finish reading the first one, which is because I'm a slow reader, don't you worry.
There you go. It should be out.
9 more months at least to get through that. All right. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come in and speak with us on the People First podcast. Is there anything that you want to add? Can we reach you? Is there a way to reach you? How do we follow you? If we want to join in, obviously we could buy the book on Amazon, not just Amazon, guys, anywhere. But yeah, if there was somewhere that, if I wanted to reach out to you, how could I do that?
So I have my website, so alrojo.com.au. Also on Instagram and Facebook, so ALRojo_writer. So everyone can follow me. I've got updates, and soon there'll be some sneak peeks of what's to come. But also just a lot of information about some upcoming events that might be happening. And yeah, I'd love to hear from people. I love to hear the feedback.
It's the best part about that's what people sometimes forget. They hold their feedback in, and as a content creator, being in the digital space for myself, if I get feedback, it is like worth it. Like in
right.
Physical creation, you want people to give you feedback. It's like the ultimate high five.
That's right. That is, and it just helps to keep going. Helps us to keep going.
Keep moving forward. I'm on the right page, in the right direction.
Right
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate taking the time, and I hope this is a success for you, and I cannot wait to read it myself. So
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me here today.
You're welcome. And on that note, guys, if you want to reach out, make sure you do follow the website alrojo.com.au. Got it, see? All these ones now. And on that note, guys, have a great day, and I will see you in the gym.